Okay, so Congress is back after the holidays and there is some major drama. First, let's just back it up so we're all on the same page. The American federal government is made up of three branches. One, the executive, which is the president, the vice president, the cabinet, secretaries of state, secretary of transportation, those people, federal agencies, and the Department of Justice. Two, the judicial branch, which is our entire federal court system, including the Supreme Court. And three, the legislative branch, which makes and passes our laws and are the only ones with the ability to declare war. Now, the legislative branch is called Congress, and Congress itself is broken down into two parts. The Senate, which has 100 senators, 2 from each of the 50 states, elected to 6-year terms, and the House, which has 435 members, divided up by population, who are elected to 2-year terms. In addition, the House has 6 non-voting members, representing the District of Columbia, D.C., the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and 4 other U.S. territories, American Samoa, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. Now, we just had the midterm elections, so everyone in the House had to run for their seat. In this particular election, the Republicans won 222 seats, and the Democrats won 212 seats, and there's 1 vacancy. So because the Republicans won more congressional House seats than the Democrats, they are considered the majority party, and they are in charge of the House. And the person in charge of the whole House is the Speaker of the House, who is elected by the House of Representatives and not only gets more power, but a bump in salary and would be next in line to the president if something happened to both the president and the vice president. It's a big deal to be the majority party, particularly in the House, where, unlike the Senate, they pass bills based on simple majorities. So the majority party has a lot of opportunity, provided they work and vote together, to get plenty of legislation passed. Now, that legislation might go on to die in the Senate, but that's a story for another time. The point here is that the House majority is a big deal. The majority party are the ones who head up committees, like Judiciary and Foreign Affairs. They decide which bills come to the floor to be voted on and when those votes will be. They make the rules for the whole House, and because the House is in charge of things like impeachments and budgets, the majority has a lot of power and responsibility. But before they can get to wielding any of that power that you hope they would use on behalf of the American people, they need to decide who their leader will be. And until this week, that was a pretty simple decision. In fact, the last time the Speaker of the House wasn't elected on the first vote on the first day was over 100 years ago. Because the House can't do any work, set up any committees, swear in any new members until they choose who will be leading them. And this new Republican Congress is currently incapable of doing the job. As of now, the Republican Party leader, Kevin McCarthy, has lost 9 votes for Speaker. He needs 218 votes, and he cannot get them because about 20 people in his party, all members of a group who call themselves the Freedom Caucus, are refusing to vote for him. So Republicans are stopping Republicans from doing the job they were all hired to do. In fact, they are stopping this entire branch of government from functioning. Every vote, all 212 Democrats vote unanimously for their leader, Hakeem Jeffries. But Kevin McCarthy can't get past 201 votes. And they keep doing the election again and again and again. As the famous quote goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Now, this is all pretty vindicating for those of us who have been trying to point out that these extremist candidates like Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz and Andy Biggs had no interest in running the government, but in destroying it. That they would rather grandstand than govern. That they are more about what's good for Fox and fundraising than what's good for the American people. It's good for those who keep blaming the Democrats or both sides for the dysfunction in Washington, but can now see in real time it's not the Democrats causing the problem. It's good for the last Congress that had the foresight to pass a budget that will continue to fund the country until September before it got into the hands of this kind of GOP chaos. But it is not good for the American people. It's not good for the functioning of our government. It's not good for our reputation around the world. We look like idiots. One party refuses to work with the other party, and now it refuses to work with itself. God forbid there's a crisis right now. There's some new outbreak or someone attacks us or Russia's war spills into a NATO nation. Without the House, we will have no way to respond. We'll be immobilized and impotent. It is dangerous and incompetent and unacceptable, and the American people should be incredibly angry that their Republican representatives care so little about their safety and security that they would hold up the most basic of government functions for their own egos and entitlement. So when you hear all about the drama, don't get distracted. The bottom line is, this is a simple exercise the Republicans have had 2 months to figure out and still showed up unprepared to do. Their instinct isn't to help the American people, but to help themselves. And while they might be great at obstruction, which they did very effectively as the minority party, being the majority is a totally different game. If you're in charge, you actually have to get stuff done. And this group of people has no interest or idea how to do that.